Playing video games for a living is probably one of the most fun careers you could have as an adult. Missouri Southern is now joining the esports arena with MoSo Esports Club. Joining me today on this edition of Newsmakers is the Esports Club staff advisor, Seth Sockwell, and president of the Esports Club, Caden Myers. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
So talk about how the Esports Club came to be here at Southern.
So Stephen Benfield, the director of recreational services, approached me about a month ago on if I believed that esports were something that Missouri Southern had interest in or would be a viable option as a way to reach out to other students here on campus and try and bring them into the rec center. And I told him that of course I believe that it could be, being of the younger generation than he is, of course, it's something I grew up with. So I fully believe that it's something that could reach out for the students here on campus. And it just sort of grew from there.
And it was, you said like a month to 3 weeks?
Yeah,
like it came about
4 to
quick.
3 weeks ago. It's just very quick.
And I've been researching this topic because I do that before my shows, and esports has been around for a pretty long time. Caden, how long have you been playing?
So I remember my brother actually got me heavily into video games when I was around, I'd say about 7 years old. We would play on the original Xbox that we had, and he actually got me into a game called RuneScape. But from there, I just fell in love with video games and have been trying to kind of get into the competitive scene about the past 5 years. But it's honestly such a great thing that's been around for, years upon years.
Right.
So.
And did you play in high school? Did you have esports in high school?
I actually did play in high school. So that was founded my senior year of high school. So I didn't really get to play that much on the teams, but we had a team for the game called Rainbow Six Siege that I was a part of, and we played some games, but eventually just weren't able to make time constraints work. But it was really fun and a great opportunity.
That's awesome. And so we were talking earlier, there's an International Esports Federation, and they've now been, allowed to, or they're now participating as an Olympic virtual event. Why do you think there's so much pushback about esports being a real sport?
I believe with that, it does sort of come down to age difference in the classical sense of a sport being, athletics, football, baseball, basketball. But if you really wind it back and look at what a sport is, it's, teams playing a game together essentially. And so with that, you can really see esports, even though it's not necessarily athletic, it's still a sport in that sense of the word.
I gotcha. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. We talked about this, and
Yes.
They pay these players to play the video game. And we have some video we're going to show about it's a big tournament, Australia's and Mouse Sports. Talk about that a little bit, those clubs and that tournament style.
So Australis and Mouse Sports, is some of the biggest names in the game CSGO, which is a competitive shooter type game where it's counter-terrorists versus terrorists, and they play 5 people versus 5 people. That is one of the biggest competitive games known in the esports industry, and multiple $1 million prize cups have been played. And even some of the smaller tournaments too generate thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I was watching this one, and they have announcers, they have the graphics. There's so much that goes on with these giant tournaments. And they were talking about how this club has really got their money's worth when they're talking about these players, because they're really good.
A DreamHack Masters winter. My name is Frankie Ward. I have got Scrawny and Launders joining me on this final leg of our journey. And just before we get into it, just a little reminder of these teams as they faced each other. Since the player break, they've faced each other 3 times. Astralis have won every single time. And I don't know if we should take much away from that, because Mouse are looking incredibly different. Chris J seems really happy with the way they're playing now, and he didn't earlier this week. And Astralis have got all their pieces back, as you said earlier.
Yeah, this is not about anything else. Wipe the board clean, tabula rasa coming into this event. For Mousesports, they know they were always capable of this, but they never proved it earlier. So their confidence has never been higher. As to this moment, right before this final, compared to the rest of this year, I'll tell you that on their behalf, that they should feel confident. It is going to be their absolute hardest opponent, but it is absolutely no fluke that they got this far. They have had a hard run, so have Astralis, both teams that have made it here, double bracket elimination, and they have earned their spots here in this grand final.
You play CS at this level for these finals, for these deep tournament runs, because the matches are just with so much energy, and you just feel that there's more on the line, which makes it a lot more fun to play. I'm just super happy after this really long bad period we had to finally reach a final again. It's amazing. But they've not been as dominant as they once were. We obviously cannot underestimate them. It's gonna be a tough match, but I feel like we're ready for them.
Throughout DreamHack Masters, we've encountered both a little bit ups and downs. We started out losing to Gotten, which obviously wasn't going as planned, but we had to go through the lower bracket and playing knockout games already. So I think we've gone through a lot of really good teams, and that just brings a lot of confidence. And now we just need the last scalp, which is Mousesports, which has also been playing amazingly throughout this tournament. So it's going to be interesting.
And of course, they're going to have to be on high alert. They don't have much to work with as they're about to exit on the tunnels. Because Train is where this game begins. It is where Mousesports' hopes currently lie. This is not an easy best of 5, but it does start now.
Probably their best chance to be able to pull out a first map, and a hard veto no matter how you toss it, but they know the best of 5 is coming. Kerrigan's been waiting for a moment like this his whole career. BMAS opening kill, Glaive answers back, and now they try to score a plant, but the bomb is going back through the brown halls, thinking about maybe getting into B, and BMAS will continue his rampage outside. It's actually huge he gets this kill. Eventually he'll get traded, but it opens lines into the B site for a plant.
Bex gonna jump up, try to challenge Kerrigan in their faces, up in the grills of this Z train. He's taken back to 44 HP. Still stands though. Doing a very good job of just posturing so that the defense can't quite best him. But all the while, Dupree now slipping down the ramp. He sees what he needs. Rop's gonna get executed. That flank is fantastic from Astralis, and it's a CT-sided pistol win for the Danes.
Dupree's playing some of his best CS at this event, looking very smart, looking very sharp, along with everybody else on the roster. Magic's come to form is not a coincidence when you talk about Glaive coming back on as an IGL, and that is also another scary thing about Astralis. It just feels like individuals, they go unnoticed a bit because the team aspect is so heightened, but the individuals are showing up in spades. Mousesports do not win the round. They get a plant, and they'll just turn this into a deco, potentially looking for another one, but you can never write out a team here on a deco these days. Always a chance.
Especially Mousesports. They've got the firepower for it. Strong Deagle players. Frozen in BMAS. Big time in BMAS. Kerrigan gets wrecked. I'm very curious to, as the gun rounds get going, keeping an eye on Kerrigan. It was versus Heroic last week that I think Kerrigan's new playstyle and his new success was very much apparent. Constantly getting out from T-Con, challenging Olaf, walking through smokes, you know, and we were sat there questioning whether it was just a matter of chance or if it's a hard read, you know, but definitely taking early gambles.
What kind of money do you know? What kind of money these guys make, or?
So I'm not for certain on any figures, but I know that winning one of those, I'm unsure, but I think one of them held a $5 million prize. And so that was split between 5 players, and I think they have coaches and everything as well. But I mean, they easily could be making hundreds of thousands a year if they are, the very best. And these guys they train for hours upon hours. I know I was looking into it, and some guys play for 12 hours a day.
I mean, that takes some skill. It's like driving a NASCAR or something. You don't get to take bathroom breaks. Like, you're stuck in that chair.
Absolutely not. You you train, and you honestly, a lot of guys have left the competitive industry because they loved what they did, but then it became almost a job.
Right.
And so, I mean, we're obviously not trying to make that happen.
Right. So what kind of games or sport clubs, what would it be, a tournament? What would Southern compete in esports-wise?
You could see tournaments for things like Overwatch, Apex Legends, Super Smash Brothers on Nintendo even, and there's just sort of a wide gamut of different games available for competitions, and even now there's starting to be some stuff with virtual reality games becoming competitive and things like that. And so it's becoming more and more interesting for sure as to what's available, and even being more physically active with it, with the sense of virtual reality and things like that.
Because you've got the headset on and you're like physically moving.
Absolutely.
And what type of equipment does Southern have for this?
So as of right now, Southern has PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series S, Nintendo Switch. They're just trying to open it up as it's a mobile cart that can be checked out by students and then just sort of brought to wherever it needs to be on campus. Generally, we have it in the rec center during the time, and we are in the process of getting a more permanent setup in the rec center.
And what kind of facilities or what kind of stuff would they provide for that? Chairs and
so that's sort of what in the process an esports arena is being determined if that's possible for the rec center, and in that there will be consoles, TVs, monitors, chairs, gaming PCs, just the whole gamut of everything.
Headsets. Do people usually have their own equipment? Or do they bring their own headsets, their own keyboards?
So they can if they want, but I mean, generally that will be provided if we have those stations available.
Okay.
Just to make it to where, this is able for someone to just come in and not have to really provide a lot of money to be able to get into competitive gaming.
Right,
Yeah.
because we want to avoid barriers to entry. We want this to be welcoming to everybody here on campus, just to, have it as a different experience for people here on campus.
And there's a lot of talk online about cheaters. Tell us what that means to cheat in one of these games.
So cheating in a video game, especially competitively, is very, it's a large problem, especially, like I said, with these $1 million prize pools. There's all the incentive to cheat. And it really boils down to, it can be something from having a program that tells you information that you may not have known about the enemy team, to actually just controlling your mouse movements or your player in total. And there have been a lot of large name competitive gamers that have been caught, and games actively try to figure out who's cheating and make sure that they are not allowed to be in these tournaments. Of course, every once in a while you will see one or two slip through, though.
And they build their own computers, right? These people that are professional at this, and how much money could be
I mean, that just sort of depends on what type of game they're wanting to play. It can run anywhere from, $300 from a computer off the shelf at Best Buy or Walmart to thousands upon thousands of dollars for top of the line gear and accessories and things like that.
And do they write their own programs? How does that work? Is that something along the lines that a cheater might do?
So, I mean, there have definitely been homebrew programs that they will use, but a lot of them have, especially in the higher tiers, have hire a team to help them, create these cheats and to hide them as best as possible, or from anywhere to just buying them offline. And they can even be free. You can literally go on the web, on Google, and search cheats for these games, and hundreds of things will pop up for them. But a lot of these games also have really good tier systems to where they weed these out. So.
Okay. And back to that, talking about hiring people, I was looking up the careers. Not just playing the video games, but they have game designers, software developers, animators. So pretty much any discipline in college, maybe even science, I don't know, is well suited for esports.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, very.
And what type of information or what type of degree do you have?
So my degree was in health promotion and wellness, focusing on business and corporate health and things like that. But even with being in esports, I do see it as it's a way for people to de-stress, because when it comes to health promotion and everything, it's something that's past, stress can be a big thing for that and everything.
And they have marketing managers, market research analysts, sales representatives. Do you see other people who, they major in, say, business, or do you see people like that joining your club, or who are the main people who would want to join?
It's really open to anybody. Actually, my major is criminal justice administration. I'm not even going into any of the fields that would pertain to this, but I just have a passion about gaming and meeting people online and forming those relationships. And so it is really fun because we can provide a great space for literally almost anybody to come and just say, hey, I want to just hang out. I want to play with my friends or anything like that.
So talk about what's in the future for Missouri Southern as far as streaming services or online. What are you guys planning?
So with that, I mean, we are in the process of getting social media pages set up, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole works of them all and everything, just so people are able to follow that along with everything in those lines, and updates from the group and things like that, and what's available and when open times will be for anybody to just come by and hang out and stuff like that. Just sort of, we're really trying to push it to be a big welcoming community here on campus, and trying to get, Southern's a big commuter population, trying to get those people to actually come and stay on campus, even if it's for an extra hour during the day or things like that.
And you were talking about an age limit. There's for these professional players. What's the age limit?
So a lot of professional competitive scenes and whatnot have age limits for different competitions. So most of them you can't really compete if you're below the age of 13. But some of them in the stricter regions and whatnot go all the way up to 18 just for liability issues. But most of the time it's around 13 is when they are allowed to play in these competitive scenes.
And is there a reason for that? Is it, 13-year-olds, they're super smart, but they're still young. Is it because of the type of environment that it is, or?
Sure. Well, I think it's mainly just to weed out liability. So if anything happens, they're conscious of, the parents are, actively involved in this and can, and these kids can make these decisions. But also, these kids can sometimes be making a lot of money, and the U.S. and other countries have different restrictions and different ways of saying, oh, they can't really make this much, or they can only earn it this way. So
Yeah, I read that Japan is still trying to get waivers for some of their players because they have an anti-gambling rule, and it kind of falls under that category.
Yeah, games especially nowadays, just with how some of them are set up, can be inducive of gambling under certain, definitions or anything like that.
Because you can bet on the player,
Right,
just like an NCAA bracket. You can bet on the bracket because they set them up like that, right? Just like a tournament.
Exactly.
Yep.
Is there going to be a season for this? Like there's basketball season, football season. Is there going to be an esports season?
So our goal with that is just sort of having it across the whole academic year, finding when tournaments are available, signing up for tournaments, and then going from there. So it just sort of, it comes down, there's not necessarily like, it'll only run from September till December. It'll just be whenever there are competitions available to join.
Okay. And other colleges or universities around this area, they play, right? They have teams.
Sure.
And will you play with them, or how does
Right.
that work?
We would try and reach out to their teams and set up like, scrimmages and things like that, and just to play against each other. Maybe not necessarily for, money or prize pool, of course, but just sort of like practice and, building it up and community-wise and things like that. Just sort of reaching out to other colleges for that.
Is there rules against students on a sports club like this earning money?
As of right now, it's set up through a club sport with rec center, so any money that's earned will go directly into Missouri Southern's Esports account for
Okay.
that. And so with that, we'll be able to then purchase more things to make it more available to everybody.
And what games are you guys focusing on as far as playing?
So as of right now, we have Call of Duty that's open and available for checkout to play and stuff like that. Rocket League, Overwatch. It's just sort of a mixed bag. And as students join, we want them to give us what they like to play and stuff like that to see if we can actually get that and participate in competitions for those games.
And do you watch other tournaments and see how games go and play?
So yeah, that's a big thing, is that a lot of these tournaments are streamed online, and thousands upon thousands of people watch them, and so that's something like we'd eventually like to do, is to be able to watch them and to be able to have all of this streaming capability, and to be able to kind of figure out this team is good, or this team has this strategy. So
Yeah, and will Southern have to do, or do you know if Southern has to do anything with their internet, or is it the fiber?
So with that would come down to a question of IT, and I do know that that's being worked out with them currently, just trying to determine what can be on the network for Southern and things like that.
Right.
To, of course, keep cybersecurity concerns in check and everything. We don't want anything malicious happening.
Oh,
So.
sure. No, that'd be a big bad thing.
Yeah.
And so what else about esports that don't people know that's pretty interesting?
really, it's all inclusive. A lot of people don't realize that it is for everyone, and a lot of leagues, a lot of people try to make it as friendly and as great of a community as possible. Obviously, some people are in a competitive scene. You're gonna get a lot of trash talking and things like that. But there are people who have never played a video game before in their life who actually have become some of the top names in some of these games, just because they pick it up really fast, or some people just like to play it for fun and will be at the lowest level but have the greatest time of their life.
And it's usually guys, right? There aren't that many women that are in this kind of sport?
So that is one of the I wouldn't say problems, but one of the issues in the gaming community right now is that there is the large stipulation that video games are for guys and girls can't play video games kind of thing. And so, we're seeing, as time goes on, that a lot of these women are, becoming really good at the game, and sometimes even better than most of the other men. And so
There's just not as many playing.
yeah,
Right.
there's not as many playing, and it's sometimes it's not for everyone. Sometimes my girlfriend, she loves to just play storytelling games on the Nintendo Switch, and that's great.
Yeah.
I love to too, and so it's just comes down to personal preference, and we want to be all inclusive in that.
Yeah, before I had kids, it was my husband and I would stay up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning playing Mario Brothers, trying to beat that game or
Absolutely.
something like that. That's probably how it starts for most people.
Right, absolutely, and that's how it was even like with my wife. She was never really big into gaming until me and her were together, and I got her interested in my hobbies and things like that, and she's sort of taken off on her own with that and wanting to pursue more stuff with that, even just as a way to de-stress.
Oh, yeah. And that does. Sometimes that helps. Get you out of your world and into another world.
Yeah.
I have a grandson who plays Minecraft, like nobody's business. And that's pretty detail oriented, and he wants me to sit there and watch him as he builds these things. And I'm like, oh, Zane, how can I sit here and watch this? you know?
Right.
But he got me listening to or watching YouTube videos, Pat and Jen. And
Oh gosh.
I mean, that's not really like gaming, but that could be, right?
Oh no, absolutely. And gaming comes in all shapes and sizes, really. Minecraft, obviously one of the biggest games in the world, is honestly can be used as a great educational tool too. I know a lot of people since the coronavirus hit. I know of several schools that had events in Minecraft, and it was just so cool to see this community coming together in a game, and they were just having fun building structures and messing around in the game. And so gaming, as I said, it comes in all shapes and sizes, and it really is just a community for everyone.
That's really great. That's the Esports Club. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. Good luck with the new club. This is Newsmakers on KGCS TV from the Ruth Copeland Studios here at Missouri Southern State University, and I'm Bobby Potroff. We'll see you again soon.